Well, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you all.
Did you travel back?
I'm a little stressed out because Barry's losing the payroll clerk, and we're all wondering, are we still going to get paid? I have to lighten the load here a little bit. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and on this Thursday, February 3rd, 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if you would, Christy, call the roll.
Trustee Bancoli? Here. Trustee Priegi?
Here.
Trustee Husani?
Here.
Trustee Gutierrez? Here. Trustee Porter?
Here.
Trustee Kemper?
Here.
Quorum established.
Okay,
Has he called in?
he has called in.
Oh, and he answered the?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a statement?
Yeah. So, my understanding is that trustee Kemper is attending this by electronic attendance and not presently. And I just want to go over what the rule is concerning that and what the board is supposed to do. So it's in the board's rules, which is Rule 5B, it says a member of the corporate authorities may attend a meeting electronically if the member meets the following conditions. The member should notify the clerk 24 hours before the meeting unless impractical, so that necessary communication equipment can be arranged. Inability to make the necessary technical arrangements will result in a denial. The member must assert one of the following 3 reasons why he or she is unable to physically attend: personal illness or disability, employment purposes or business of the village, or attend because of a family or other emergency. It's my understanding that he notified the village clerk at about 2 p.m. this afternoon that he was ill. Is that correct,
Yes.
Mr. Kemper?
Yes.
Okay. And then it says, the village clerk, after receiving the request, informs the village president and the village manager and of the request for electronic attendance. After establishing that there is a quorum physically present, which you've just done, at a meeting where a member of the corporate authority desires to attend electronically, the presiding officer shall state that a notice was received by a member in accordance with the rules, and the member will be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the member's electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the board physically present. If no such motion is made and seconded, or if any such motion fails to achieve the required vote by the members of the board physically present, then the request by the member to attend the meeting electronically shall be deemed approved by the corporate authorities, and the presiding officer shall declare the requesting member present. So, I guess that's the issue, if anyone wants to make a motion to object to his physical presence or not. And if not, then the mayor is to declare the person present.
Without objection, I'll declare
Trustee.
Trustee Kemper present. With that, we have completes the roll call. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, publicly open and read proposals for purchase and redevelopment of the Hanover Square Shopping Center site.
So as you know, the village is on the agenda a sale and purchase agreement for the shopping center and the outlet parcel. And the process for doing that, and this, because it's in a TIF, we published a notice for 2 consecutive days, like 14, 15, or 13, or 14 days prior to tonight's meeting, and invited anyone who might have an alternate proposal for the shopping center. And those were supposed to be delivered, if at all, to the village clerk on or before 4 p.m. today. And if any were so delivered on or before 4 p.m. today, the village clerk was to bring them unopened, sealed, to this meeting where they would be opened. So I guess the question is, has the clerk received anything before 4 p.m. or at any time?
We did not receive any proposals.
Any alternate proposals?
Correct.
Okay. So number 3 and 4, you don't have to act upon.
Very good.
So you can go right to 5.
I can go right to 5. Very good. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, Madam Christie, call the roll, please.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Kemper.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any presentations this evening? None? Very good. I thought we might have a cop to swear in. Not yet? Very good. Town hall session, anyone sign up for town hall?
No, sir.
Did you get a letter to read?
Did not.
Thank you. The village president's report. Well, first of all, my condolences to Trustee Bancole. She had a flight out of town and to a family member. So. And I think I want to thank the board for tolerating the leadership.
Thank you.
Herb Porter running the meeting last week.
Oh.
Well done.
My honor.
It was well done. Thank you very much. As you know, I was in the U.S. Conference of Mayors in the District of Columbia, and after 2 years absence, it was it felt good to get together with some of the old cronies that I've come to know and meet with over the years. A lot of the mayors didn't come, but we did have many of the representatives under the president come and visit with us. Department of Labor, former mayor from Boston, a good friend. The many mayors, now there's 4 in the cabinet, and so transportation was there. Lori Lightfoot came and spoke to us. The interesting comment, there were many, absolutely many it was nice that the president came and spoke to us. But I thought the former, still actually the mayor of Los Angeles, who'll be stepping down 4 terms, Eric Garcetti. He will be, he's been nominated to be the, what do you call it, to India, the ambassador to India. And he gave his normal state of Los Angeles kind of speech and his role in leadership. Then he said, I have personal opinion that I need to share. Now, some of you may not like it, he said, but the gist of his personal opinion was that we're too focused on our all our individual distractions, whether it's what we're all working for individually or role play or one culture against another culture. It's my culture. he said, in America, what makes us strong is finding those items that we work together successfully and put our arms around one another. So he said it more eloquently than I'm referring to it, but it was about working together, find our successes working together, and I thought it was a real good tone and just an excellent feedback for that whole agenda while I was out there. I did have to be tested every day. I sent the first test back to my wife, and she was in shock. She thought there's no way you would have passed that test. So I came out clean all week, so that was good. Minding my P's and Q's. I want to send a special thanks to Juliana for her work on this railroad merger initiative. She and the other managers are working together, and I like collaborative processes. We have done those before. The managers and the mayors along the corridor between us and O'Hare are familiar with that, but the municipalities of Bensonville, Wooddale, Itasca, Roselle, Schaumburg, Hanover Park, Bartlett, and Elgin, and the DuPage County has joined in. We're working together collaboratively, and the managers have been really researched and are going to protect our future interests, and I'm really excited about the direction they're on. And I went to a meeting this week. Was it this week or last week? Time flies when you're having fun. But I was there with the managers, and the railroad was there, and they clearly seek to divide and work with each municipality. That'd be your preference, and I had to share with them that the best efforts of this collaborative body will be working together. In other words, I'm sharing with him, you need to knock that off. Today I met with Andrew, the principal at Round Ground Metals, and you may be familiar with that large building on Lake Street. He's interested in renting that building out. It's quite huge. He can use that, and as his business grows. I was pretty excited when he called me to say, can you come by and take a look with me? And so his goal, my goal, is to stay in Hanover Park. We've worked well together. I'm pretty excited about what he's trying to do. He's got a short fuse with that group because they have somebody else looking at it. So it's like a 10-day thing, but he's going to get to the village whatever he needs so that we can keep him in town. It's pretty important to me, and I'm glad to have a quality businessman stay here. And it's funny, he has no problem hiring people because the word of mouth is exceptional, and most of his people he hires are actually from our community, and so that's nice to see. ER2 gave me a call. ER2 is that sign company, and it's more than signs. I mean, they'll wallpaper a whole building. And they too are looking to expand their business, and we've established a meeting with the folks, I forget what our committee is, our DRC committee, for the 18th. And he's excited about his expansion. He bought that property with the hope of expanding. So that's really good. I'm excited about that. The push tax, I may have shared, I don't know, I can't remember if I shared that little, every one of our gaming places has signs in there that say, leave a penny in the bucket every time you push. Well, that's all coming due soon, so we'll have that straightened out shortly. But just so you're aware. And the local government distributive fund, I've touched base with all our legislators, very positive about that direction. I was quoted all over the place today, it seems, concerning one of the governor's addresses on the food tax, apparently there's a 1% grocery tax, he called it. I know that includes more than groceries. It includes pharmacy and a few other items that are interesting. And my comment was to just not have a plan how to reimburse us, but we need to know, we need more information. And I said the details have not been released. It's more complex than that. Given that, the director of revenue, David Harris, called me this morning, and he said, "Oh, Mayor, I read you in the newspaper," and he said, "I want to assure you that the governor was correct. He's willing to reimburse any funds we lose because they don't want to, they want to reduce the impact on groceries, or the cost of groceries. But they will replace those funds that we would be losing." So with that, he said it's a work in progress. We haven't figured out how yet. But his office is working on that. So it was nice to hear that. So I think I brought everybody up to speed on everything that's going on. It was nice to get a call from David Harris. I've known him for some time. He was a representative out of Arlington Heights. He's an Army colonel, or I think he's, in the Navy we call it admiral. What do you call it in the Army? the general, I guess. So he is that in the Army, and he has served for many years. So with that, I would move by omnibus vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
And those are items 9A1 through 9A4.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Very good. 985, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the sale of property, Hanover Square Shopping Center, and outlot parcel, UG Necessary Retail Fund, ZLP of Delaware Limited Partnership, and a 3/4 vote of the corporate authorities is required.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll also point out that the broker, the real estate broker for the village, Sean Sharko, is here. You might want to come forward just in case anyone has any questions concerning the sale or your role in the sale or anything like that.
So are you receptive when we double the taxes?
No, he's not the buyer.
He's not the buyer?
He's
Well, don't tell the buyer I said that.
he's your broker.
He's our broker.
It was a conversation.
I couldn't tell you, I'm not seeing any questions come forward, but,
I did have one question.
oh, okay, very good.
Can you kind of reiterate or explain to us the past experience of the buyer with previous shopping centers of this nature? How successful have they been in running a shopping center, running it to occupancy and profitability? What's their experience?
They are full-time.
Please step to the microphone.
Thank you.
This buyer, although out of state, they're a national owner of shopping centers. That is their focus. They've touched some of the other products outside of shopping centers, but they primarily develop and reposition product just like we're talking about. They're really adept at leasing. They have a lot of national tenant relationships, and they're also really good at tenant mix, creating synergies so that all the tenants can kind of thrive together. So being very decisive on what other tenants they'll put in here is really what they're known for doing. But they don't currently own anything in the Illinois market, although they've owned quite a bit in the Illinois market in the past. They typically will come in and they'll hold the property for a good period of time, keep it stabilized and keep improving it.
So was it their their bid that set them apart, or was it their past experience? Was it their management team? What was it that set them apart
Really-
from some other potential buyers?
Really, all three. They are a professional operator with deep leasing relationships and track record. Most of the other buyers were more, I'd say, local, more of mom and pop type of approach. I'd call it more reactive ownership, where this group's more of a proactive approach.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else?
Yes. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Sean Sharko.
Sean, thank you. So you said that they, as of right now, do not own anything within the state of Illinois, but they have previously?
Correct.
And with those previous, I guess, buildings or strips that they owned, roughly how long did they hold on to those properties?
I couldn't say exactly their ownership. I would know that more so the strategy was to get them stabilized. They were either distressed or ground-up developments. The ones I could think of off the top of my head were all distressed. And they brought them up, got the tenants in, occupied, stabilized, enjoyed the cash flow for a good period of time before they moved on. So I wouldn't call them flippers by any means, no.
Okay. And the ones that they previously owned, were they within the Chicagoland area, or was it downstate? Is it anything that we would be familiar with within the northwest suburbs?
Northwest is not coming to mind, but I know they had an asset in Orland Park. It was an out parcel to Orland Park Mall, right at the entrance of the mall. So it was a very key piece of real estate for the community. Then they did a similar piece of real estate down a little further south in Bradley. So not quite Chicago MSA, but maybe on the cusp. Was similar. It was an out parcel to a Target that came in disrepair, that they fixed up and re-tenanted.
And how long has it been? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long has it been since they've done business in the state?
Again, my estimate's probably 2 years, maybe less.
So it's not that long a period of time?
No.
Okay.
Very good.
And can you again remind us what we initially listed the strip for?
We originally listed the property for just over $8 million. It was about $8.1 million. Part of that, though, was predicated on some leasing activity that was taking place that we thought would come to fruition. So these properties are marketed on their as-is income, and we were forecasting a lease to take place that just didn't come together. So that income did affect the final pricing that we ended up with.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? So,
We were hoping that there would be additional income in place by the time that we accepted an offer, and that additional income did not come to fruition. So that's part of the reason that other offers ended up being much lower than what we're accepting, and this offer didn't quite meet the 8.1 asking price.
okay, thank you.
So in your estimation, is this offer above or below market value that we're selling for?
I would say very comfortably we've cleared the market. We had several offers. We actually did a call for offers from all the people that submitted, and this offer stood out monetarily by a good deal of dollars. So I would say we cleared the market. It is definitely a market rate offer. I would say it would probably be hard to replace. If I had to go back out to market to get the same offer again, I think it would be hard to replace.
When you say good deal of dollars, do you mean by hundreds of thousands? Do you
Yes.
mean by millions?
Hundreds of thousands.
By hundreds of thousands? Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Very good. Anyone else? Yes.
I have a question more for you.
Lisa?
What's going to happen to the Work Education Center once there's no contract on for them to continue there?
So, on the agenda earlier this evening, you approved a lease extension for them. And so, my understanding, and Sean, I don't think you've heard anything different, is that the new owners like the uses that are currently in the center. Their motivation is to fill those, have the value add of the space that are vacant currently. So we don't anticipate that they would do anything to move the center along. We had asked the center for a longer-term lease, and based on their internal operations, they did not want to do anything other than a one-year lease. So I think that we will see them come back to the table, the colleges, and look for a renewal at that time, and hopefully there's a new buyer, owner in place that will work with them, and we'll be available to, help them in any way that we can.
And then, so this wasn't in our budget, right? So are these funds, this 7.6, is this earmarked for anything within our budget already?
So those dollars will go back to the TIF district. We have a $4+ million loan on the property, so that, will get handled at closing. We did have the cost to purchase the center, 2-point-something million was used to purchase of TIF dollars to purchase the center, so that'll go back into the TIF district. And so it'll be available then for use as part of the TIF budget for other efforts by the village to enhance the area that's within the TIF.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I will tell you, I'm excited today that I anticipate the approval, and I'm excited today as I was when I snatched it out of Pacini's hands, him pointing his finger in my face, because I told him to try to clean the place up, and then he told me I could have the GD place. So that's how that conversation went. But it's not our core business, and I think we've come a long way with it. I think staff will take a sigh of relief turning loose of the shopping center, because they spent a lot of time trying to manage that, and like I said, it's not our core business. So with that, thank you for being here tonight. I do need, if you would state your name, your,
Sean Sharko.
okay,
Thank you.
got it? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, Madam Clerk, just see if you would call the roll on accepting the
And again,
property.
this takes a 3/4 vote, and that would be 6 members of the board.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Call the mayor, please.
Mayor?
What are you calling me? Yes. I'm in a rare mood tonight. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. Nice to have you all here on a cold night. 9A6, move to approve the warrant 203-2022 in the amount of $679,588.83.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the warrant? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 9A7, move to approve warrant paid in advance 1/15/2022 through 1/28/2022 in the amount of $1,056,978.83.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the warrant? Hearing none. Christie, please call the roll.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very nice. Village managers report?
Yes, Mayor, I have several items this evening, so I will try to get through them, but I will be able to try to answer any of your questions regarding these items. So the first item is, at the last village board meeting, there had been an item on the agenda to waive the invoice that was submitted to El Huda for costs related to ambulance service at their COVID booster event. And that item was actually pulled from the agenda, and the board had asked for some additional information. We worked with Chief Fours, and the following information I'll just read to you. I have it in the form of an email. And if there are any other questions that we didn't capture from the last meeting, please let me know. But so there were 5 people that received vaccinations at that event on 9/25/2021. It was unknown if any of the 5 were from Hanover Park. It's believed that they were all local residents from nearby towns. of the 5 that received vaccinations at that event. The clinic was run by IDPH. There was no compensation received. I think that question had been asked, so they did not receive any compensation. They were under the belief that the fees could be waived, but there was no statement of hardship when we talked to them. And that, in addition to that, so the charges for that event were equal to $4,125. And an invoice was drafted in New World and was sent to Al Huda. Some additional information, though, that the board should be aware of. There were 2 events earlier in the year, one on March 29th and one on April 19th. Those were 2 sets, the first shot and the second shot for a vaccination event. For that event, they incurred fees of $11,425. Those were both police and fire services. And there was some confusion. I think that it was in the system there, the costs were put in, but Al Huda never received the invoice for those two events, the 11,000. So we're not sure whether they believe because they weren't charged for those, that in this case they would be waived as well. But we never went through that process of waiving the fees. So those fees are still outstanding. So the board needs to decide really how to handle, if they so wish to bring this up again, how they want to handle those fees. So the $11,425 fees from the spring event, and then the $4,125 invoice from this last event. Depending on how the board wishes to proceed, we would either put it on the next agenda for you to waive some or all of it or a portion of it, or if you tonight gave me the direction that you don't wish to move forward on this, then we will go back to our process and handle it and follow through. And then Chief Forrest can answer any other questions, although this was under Chief Haig's direction.
Do we
at the
know
time.
how many people got vaccinated at the other events?
400,
400.
yes.
And at this new one, just 5 people?
Just 5, yes.
That was vaccination event, or was it a testing?
It was a booster event.
Booster event, okay.
So we previously had Evangel Church had a few events driven by IDPH, and I don't believe we charged on those because there's no reimbursement for oversight. When we have a
Mayor,
not-for-profit,
Mayor, that was our event.
That was our event.
well, one of them was our events. The earlier one,
Well, they were the
Yes,
two,
they were both.
weren't they the 2 shots event?
Correct. We held a booster, or we held a vaccination event on behalf of the village, and it was hosted at Evangel Church. They shared their space for us, and that was a 2-dose event. So there's a primary dose,
So-
3 weeks later, a second follow-up. We did the
that
same
that
with,
was the indoor event.
correct, same at the Park District.
The early one was an outdoor event.
We never held an outdoor vaccination event. No,
Not the village, but they were doing that,
That
and
was
we,
testing.
Testing site.
oh,
And if it was
So-
a test,
so
if
my
it was a
point is-
testing event, we would not have had police and fire stand by at a testing event. We would, it's only a requirement at a vaccination event.
so my
Just-
thought is, if IDPH approaches a not-for-profit in our community, I think it's within our reasonable approach to support that. They're not making money. They're trying to support the municipality, the people of the village of Hanover Park. And so, for me to send them a bill for an effort by a not-for-profit, they shouldn't have to eat that, is my thought. And I think we have the means to support them with our police and fire. It's not a for-profit, we have these pop-ups now, I'm calling pop-ups, where they do testing or whatever they're doing. I'm not into supporting them with police and fire, but our not-for-profits that are trying to do the right thing in our community, I see support for that. I think that's where we, as a municipality, can step up. So
And this was an IDPH-sponsored event, right?
it was,
So,
yeah.
so the way it's structured right now, and we've had some conversation about maybe modifying it going forward, Chief Forrest and I have, it was, previously, it was the position of the fire department that if somebody was having an event in town that required paramedics to stand by, that we would provide that with our own staff and then bill back or send an invoice to that organization. My understanding in these two cases is that if we weren't available, or if we chose not to do that, IDPH would have found an outside provider to provide that ambulance service, standby, and then there wouldn't have been that cost to us to invoice. And so I think we need to weigh going forward whether we would just allow IDPH to, find their own standby service. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Sure. The ordinance gives us basically that right of refusal, and to ensure that if we have staff that's available, or do we think that the EMS plan or the fire plan for standby personnel, it's not just narrowly focused on vaccination events. It's been in the ordinance for some time. It's at any special event, large gathering, crowds, public type of events that are not directly sponsored by the village, that we would have the ability to assess what were the needs and if they could be provided adequately by whatever private entity or public entity that was having the actual event. And in many of these cases in the past, we've chosen to be available and then hence charge under the cost recovery portion of the ordinance, which has specific fees that are enumerated for those services. In the past, it's also included, if needed, standby and also police presence and or traffic control and or cleanup or public works interaction. So these are all under the same auspices of this area. And this was another event that, especially in the first one, it was decided that we needed to provide those services. We did the same exact thing for the second event to follow up from the vaccination, as well as the booster event in the fall.
And how do we reconcile the expenses for those first two events?
We haven't yet.
Is it, when he said that there was an ordinance that it's written for those types of events, then we never have a budget line for those things? For those?
Well, it's that no, because
We don't, okay.
we would
I'm sure it's a
charge
revenue
for
It's
the
a
services.
okay.
Right.
And then,
And my understanding is either us through our staff or somebody through that IDPH outside of our staff coordinated with, there had to be, because it was a vaccination event, a ambulance standby.
I do believe that IDPH can provide those services.
Yes,
And they
that
have
we-
the funding to do that,
Yes.
especially when we're always looking at balancing our budget. Speaking with what the mayor said, that we should, provide this type of service to our nonprofits, I think we can meet them halfway. However, with all due respect, just because I'm a nonprofit doesn't mean that I can't be diligent and be aware that there's costs that have to be taken into account, et cetera. And I mean, we weren't aware that that was gonna happen. It's more of like a private event, and then to hear it's only 5 people, that's really not worth it for us, if you look at the bigger picture.
So
So to
Well,
answer
the
your
bigger
question,
picture
we
for
were
me,
not,
it's a public health initiative.
until we
fine.
dove into.
Do we want to support our community or not?
it's just before we even go into those conversations, I'm thinking, isn't there a process for this? If they want our services to be delivered and cop needs to be there or somebody needs to
So
be
we're
there?
gonna
They
tighten that
submit?
up considerably in
Yeah. So-
in the first event, we did have adequate notice and we did go through
Okay.
the process. It kind of fell off on the invoice side of it, and we have to tighten that up. And we've had staff conversations about the department having to enter in the invoice and do all of that through our accounting system. On this event, it was very quick. It came in a week ahead of time of the event. The special events forms weren't filled out. People were calling various people, and it was kind of a last-minute
Yeah,
event.
so
And
it-
so,
I see it as our shortfall, that we were not ready or prepared to let them know ahead of time that there is going to be charges like that. We don't
Yeah,
want to
I
surprise,
think- I
forget
think
about this
norma-
surprise, we were talking about last year,
How
March
ma-
surprise.
Yeah, how
That-
many weeks do we normally for a village event?
Special events is
Spec-
60 days.
Right,
And
so
this
we
is-
did not have the 60 days
And for six
notice
people,
on-
our resources were wasted by,
But this
that
is
second, but.
all uncharted territory.
It is.
You know, and what
Yes.
we were doing, so that there weren't safeguards put in place prior to this is understandable, because COVID has prevented a whole new reality for us. And I think that moving forward, certainly we will move to tighten up some of these regulations and requirements. But as long as this wasn't a private event, and if IDPH was sponsoring it, it seems to me that it tends to lean toward that it was a public event. Now, the participation level is something that can be debated, but I think that if a community organization in a time when people were scrambling to get booster shots and to get shots and driving all over to get it, and they provided that service to our community, I think we would be remiss to deny them the coverage and covering those charges as a village. I think we're going to have to eat that, but also, again, moving forward, make the necessary adjustments to our policies so that in the future, we have some guidelines to go by. But I would hate to a nonprofit organization, send them a bill for something that they didn't profit from, and certainly was a benefit of some sort to the community.
So we did communicate that there would be a charge, that they would receive an invoice prior to the event. I think what we would like to do is tighten it up in that they actually receive something clearer in writing to that effect, but in this case, they were notified that there would be an invoice. According to our ordinances.
Prior to the event?
Prior
Were you
to
told
the
that?
event,
That was
yes.
for the first two events?
Yes, for all three events. So I cannot, through our ordinances, waive these fees. I have to have the board's action. So anytime going forward, it won't be that we would, if you're a nonprofit, we'll waive these fees. Those are done on a case-by-case basis to the board, and a request and for you to decide whether you want to waive a fee that's required by our ordinances. And again, we will have some conversations going forward on a case-by-case basis. If some other outside agency is able to provide the service and we don't have to, we're running really short on staff
Yeah.
right now these days, so these things are challenging these special events are challenging for us to cover, and so the times are different, and so we will be evaluating that going forward.
What is the amount for the first vaccines that they owe?
$11,435 total.
And the second, the 5 people that got
The
vaccinated?
booster, $4,125.
I think we need some clarity moving forward. I don't think that's been in place. I like what I'm hearing at the table. I don't want to go back and then jeopardize some of the good work that's been done. But I think from this day forward, let's come up with a process.
Well-
And you can put it on the next agenda, have this board
Well-
move forward with that process, and so
Well,
we have a level of clarity.
So the process is the special events process. We have that in place. Everybody who contacts
No, I differ, because we're in a health crisis situation, and I think that takes it up a notch. And I think the community has to have some relevance in moving forward and assisting a not-for-profit in our community. And I support those not-for-profits in our community.
Was there special event forms filled
But
out for
let's-
either of these?
Was there what?
Special event forms filled out for either of these events?
No.
'Cause nothing came across my desk,
No.
even a week before.
No, so, let's come up with some clarity around it, but I want to move forward. I don't want to go back and clobber them for some of our shortcomings.
Where would the $15,560 if waived hit us? What funding would that come out of? That would be what?
overtime
Overtime?
in the fire department.
In 2021, already done.
So if we have a process, we can avoid the overtime, we can plan ahead, there's some things we can do. So I'll look for that process
Well,
for the next meeting,
so,
but I'm not going backwards.
so from a process perspective, an organization needs to fill out the special events application and go through our process to determine what staff and resources are needed for the event so that we can tell them how much it will cost, and they can, you know, if they request a waiver, then it would come before you. The board tonight needs to determine what they want to do with those charges that are outstanding. And if you wish to take action on them other than us invoicing El Huda, then I will put it on the next board agenda for your action. So what is the will of the board?
It's my recommendation, and I will hear from the rest of the board, but it's my recommendation that in view of the health crisis that we were in, that we waive those fees for the events that El Huda held for our community. That's just my stance on that.
I would agree.
I would agree too.
I agree.
Are we all on board? I think Trustee Kemper's out there?
Yes, yes, we're all on board. I just don't want to have us to pay $4,125 in overtime for 5 people to get vaccinated again.
And that should be captured as best as possible on the special events, because I believe that there's a line that says how many people do anticipate, and so I will put it on
How did they even come to having this without going through the special event procedure?
I was just
mean,
going to
that's a failure on our part for allowing that to even go forward, knowing that there were forms and things that needed to be done. So I don't know if we penalize the community organization for a lapse for whatever reason.
maybe we could have that conversation offline.
Okay.
Okay, I think you have your direction. We'll move forward, we'll have a clear thing.
So we're going to waive,
The 60 days,
Fees,
I struggle with
I will
in
bring
a
it forward
public
to the
health
next board.
initiative, but we can discuss that when it's on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you. What else did you have, Juliana? You said you had
Yes,
multiple
I
things.
have several. So the next item is, so the village board approved an ordinance regarding, regarding water and the water rates, and that ordinance has been approved by the board, and so staff was requested, and we started with the Hanover Township to discuss how we could implement a waiver or discount on the infrastructure maintenance fee for individuals who fell into a category of low income. This was a category that we did not offer a reduction in rate to before. And so we met with Hanover Township, and there were several options, but the only option that is available through the township that would not involve the creation of intergovernmental agreements and them changing their processes and everything would be they currently review residents as to whether they meet the requirements of LIHEAP, and they have told us that they will do that, and if somebody meets the requirements of LIHEAP, they will send us a form or a letter saying to that effect, and then we would provide them the discount of the $6.25, correct? $6.25 discount if they did that. So we believe that the other townships review that as well, and so if the board is amenable to that, then, and that meets what your thought was when you approved the ordinance, then we would put that in place with Hanover Township and talk to the other townships, and then put this out to the residents. It's actually out there right now, but I don't really think that they know the logistics of it until we have these meetings.
What, you say
Lie
it's out
heap-
there, you say it's out there right now?
Well, the ordinance language was added to the back of the water bills, but we really haven't had a lot of conversation with residents, other than if they've called Remy to do that. And it hasn't been as specific as if you meet low income along these lines, because we want to have this conversation with you first. So I believe that LIHEAP is 200% of the federal property guidelines.
And where is this outlined on the water bill? Because I brought mine in, because we did say that there was gonna be some type of, announcement, notice, or something on the water bill. And if it's here, and, I'm a board member and I've struggled to find it, I don't know how residents may have found it, if it's on here.
So what we're going to do is put, if tonight you say this is what your intentions were, then we will put a notice on the front of the water bill. If you turn it over, there's an announcement area.
Yes, yes.
And we will put the parameters there, who to contact at the townships, and the process to do. But it's taken us this long to meet with the township, have them go back to their staff, figure out what would be the best approach, come back to us.
And
then
that's
this
why
is-
we were arguing for a delay in the implementation of this bill, because it's gone out and it's hitting seniors, and there was nothing on this bill to notify seniors that there was going to be this increase in the service fee that was coming out. And I understand, and I was afraid of the fact that coordinating with the townships was not going to be something that we could do in a matter of days, which is what it would have taken, to have gotten this done. And there's nothing on this bill that alerted seniors to the fact that there was going to be an increase in that fee. And we were told by staff that there would be something that would go out. And as such, we've received a few letters, a few comments from residents who have voiced their concern about the change in the status of the service fee for seniors. And I want to ensure that going forward, that anything that we do is carried out and carried through on and done in a timely enough manner so that people are forewarned about, first of all, the opportunity to apply for this discount, because I don't think we're going to summarily just give it to everyone that comes under LIHEAP qualifications. I think, or are we just going to give it out to everyone under LIHEAP, or are we going to have some type of request where a person has to come in and request the discount or request the waiver? There's a lot of things that still need to be figured out.
Those have been worked out. The individual would go to their township that they live in. They would go through a review process with the township, and the township will collect any information or whatever they need to verify that they are eligible for LIHEAP. They will fill out send us notification that they are eligible, and then their bill will reflect it. They will have to reapply once a year.
And how will they be notified that this opportunity to contest the waiver or contest the fee or to apply for the waiver? How are we going to notify those individual residents that go to the township, ask for this information, and do that?
We'll have to put that information together and put it out there. There's another piece of this. So this change happened on the floor we don't usually change ordinances on the floor. So I just want the board to be aware of the impact on the budget as well, because we didn't have those numbers when we had the conversation and that change was made. So a change was made for the seniors and on the floor, and then there was the low income change. So in the end, the budget, we've estimated that 1,000 residents will be eligible for the LIHEAP low-income discount. And because of that, the numbers come out at under budget by $7,379 if we use that estimated number.
Does that take into account that now the seniors that
Yes.
paid zero are now paying
Yes.
$6.50?
Yes. So I think that's pretty close. I think that if for some reason we had less than 1,000, we may be right on budget. But just so everyone knows.
What's the impact again?
So we will be, the budget revenue projections will be under by $7,379.
And that number, did you get that from the township?
No, we just estimated 1,000 LIHEAP eligible residents.
But the townships don't tell you that that's how
They
many.
don't keep track of how many they have. They could not give us how many people in Hanover Park were, met that eligibility. So we'll have to see how it, after we let people know and people go through the process, if they so choose, how many we actually have. It's not like we have a ceiling and we'll stop providing it if more people come through, but.
And so far, only Hanover Township's been visited? We haven't reached out to Schaumburg or Wayne or?
We don't anticipate a problem with the other townships. We just needed, if we go this route. If we had a more involved process where an intergovernmental agreement and all of that, I think we'd have a longer process to go through.
But have we spoken to them about it, the other?
We have not met individually with each one of them. We will do that after this meeting tonight.
Okay, so they don't know, so with the exception of Hanover,
Well, I mean, they're aware, but we haven't sat down and talked about the logistics and the parameters with them yet. We've outlined the policy already, and we will, meet with, implement it as soon as we hear back from all of you.
okay. Thank you. And if I could go back, so just building off of what Trustee Porter was saying, I do remember that we did have a conversation about notifying our residents about the increase in the service fee on January's bill, and I do have a distinct memory of making you aware of my concerns about notifying our residents about this, additional increase, right? Because nobody likes surprise bills. So to clarify, the only way the only avenue of communication that the village used to communicate this change was via highlighter?
So the highlighter included that there would be an increase in the water infrastructure rate. It did not go into great detail on who would be charged and what the breakdown was. It was in the highlighter that there would be an increase in the fee. Then the discussion was held at the board meeting with the recommendation of how those should be applied. At that board meeting, the board made modifications to how that increase or decrease was going to be applied across our population. After that, we met with the Hanover Township staff to determine how best to implement the low-income reduction or waiver, and we have gone back and forth with them and have a process in place that we can provide this discount to the low income based on a level playing field guidelines, and we have those guidelines in place and they're ready to go.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but it was reported to the board that information would be on the bill. So I'm trying to figure out why that information wasn't on the bill. Because what ended up happening is we had a bunch of angry seniors telling us that they were surprised. And so I'm just trying to figure out why, what happened there? What was the change?
What do you mean by what? So So the language of the
just to
ordinance is,
clar-
the language of the ordinance and how it's applied is on the back of the bill. They receive, the infrastructure maintenance fee is outlined and broken out on the front of the bill. There are seniors in town who felt that because they've in the past had a waiver of the $12.50, that the increased $6.25 was also going to be waived for seniors. And we can go forward and put something else out. I don't know if we can, how much room is on that top piece. We had planned on putting the low-income rate guidelines on that message piece at the top.
I guess, so, and thank you for explaining that, but I guess maybe moving forward, maybe just some consistency as to what is being reported to the board and then what is actually taking place would help just with general communication. Because I was under the assumption that it was gonna be on the bill, and I think we all were. And we're really trying hard to like defend the actions of the village, but if what we're defending doesn't even exist, then, then we're in the wrong. So it's, I understand the frustration of our residents.
My sense is we will have, as a board, a little more clarity in the future around our expectations.
Yeah.
So we'll have to state that, and staff can articulate whether they can meet that or not.
Yeah, and I understand that water is a very sensitive issue, and we will try to, going forward, focus on that. There were other fees, and there's going to be some more, there were other fee changes that you'll see at the next board meeting that haven't been, implemented by ordinance yet, and you'll see them over the next, from the budget process. And so I agree with the mayor, we'll have to have some understanding, because every time we've had a fee increase, we have not gone out and done a special notification to the residents regarding that fee.
That's just necessary, and in the short time I've been here, that's been one of the larger complaints, is that they don't know, and we do a great job on the highlighter, but they don't know. Was this posted on our Facebook page?
I believe it was just in the highlighter as well on the website.
So I think that could be a great avenue for this, but going back to what Trustee Porter was saying, when will they get the information on the reduced rate clearly on the bill? When will that happen?
Well, we need to go back to Hanover Township, finalize the process with them as well as the other townships. I think we were hoping for the March bill. We'll have to make sure that that's all through so that I don't want to put it out and then have the township not be able to
My
process
concern
it.
was, when I pushed this through, is that I wanted us to have that budget line item cleared, but also that our residents coming in January, I said, can start taking advantage of this. But now it's only from the time that they sign up for it. So you're saying March, before it's on the bill, that they know they can sign up. And we will post this
Well,
on,
that's the next bill, I believe.
and
is
we will
March.
post this on Facebook as well. Can we do that?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So, thank you. And so we also, at our last meeting, we talked about, so when I initially brought up this exemption, I talked about those that had incomes that didn't exceed the 200% federal poverty level. I also talked about veterans that might have disabilities that either are maybe receiving SSI or SSDI. I talked about just low-income individuals, but also maybe those that are experiencing hardships. Maybe they aren't low income per se, but they've had a recent loss of employment. So
Those
so
are
we
not,
talked-
those were not included in the ordinance, and those are not reflected in any of the steps that we've taken.
Those
So
folks-
why is that?
Because
I
that's not-
initially brought that up back in October.
Those were
I brought
not.
it up again in November. I brought it up several times in December. And so I'm having trouble understanding why those comments weren't also taken into consideration.
Because that conversation was taken at the board level, and the discussion at the board level was on the language of what would be included in that ordinance change. The board language that was approved by the board did not include those comments. And so we can only implement rate fee changes and increases and discounts based on language that was in the ordinance.
So, Trustee Bankole, I think, I brought that up, that we wanted veterans, low income I remember this conversation well. We said we want everybody that is low income, period, regardless of who you are, covered. And the benefit access program was brought up, that covers some of those folk.
And that was already in our ordinance,
And
and
that's
it's still in
already-
there.
And so at the township level as well.
Yes, so
Folks
we
can
had, I
sign
think
up
that
online.
Remy reported out at that meeting that we currently have 6 residents who take advantage of that section of the ordinance regarding the discount through the township.
Yeah, and that's over 65 or low income or disabled can take advantage of that program. So they would fall under that.
Well, I would, I appreciate all of the information that you're giving us. And I know that this is something that with your staff has been very time consuming. But I would appreciate a very robust effort to notify our residents of all of the vehicles that are available that will assist them in reducing some of the legal or the service fees that they're incurring through the village. Because when you say that only 6 people are taking advantage of a particular item or particular waiver or opportunity, doesn't suggest to me that there are only 6 people in the village that are eligible.
Right.
It means that maybe there are only 6 people that knew about it. And so I would like to make sure that we're doing everything in our power, because we had this discussion with some other issues, but I would like to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to advertise what Hannibal Park, the village of Hannibal Park, is doing to assist our residents in meeting some of these financial responsibilities. Letting them know that in doing this, it creates a challenge for the village, because we're responsible for presenting balanced budgets and doing all of our due diligence on that end, but certainly communicating to our residents the opportunities to reduce some of these legal or service fees that we have that, they may be able to get some assistance on. And moving forward, as we do that, I think that we need to explore every opportunity. I know we're doing the highlighter, the village website. I don't know if we're doing text blast or, certainly it's not on the water bill yet, but we've got to use everything that we can to let our residents know that help is available. And I just don't, I would like to see an increased effort. I'm not going to say that we're not doing that, because that would be commenting on something that I don't have full knowledge of. But I would like to see us do a better job of communicating to our residents the help that's available.
Thank you. And I just want to go back to, Juliana, what you were saying before. So you moved forward with the LIHEAP program, with your talks with Hanover Township, and realized that, that would be the best way. And I do thank you for your efforts. But you said that you moved forward in that way because of what was passed in the ordinance. And this was the December 2nd ordinance, right? Or was that thank you, December 16th. So December 16th, when we passed that ordinance, this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was the meeting where we had one ordinance halfway through, with the assistance of our attorney, we hand wrote the changes to this, and that we were told that if we did not pass said ordinance that night, that we would lose upwards of $75,000. And so I believe that maybe we owe it to ourselves to bring back that ordinance and just review it again. Because I feel uncomfortable with the fact that many other categories may not be included, just because, we passed this ordinance in a rushed manner, those other categories that may also need assistance might not have those opportunities. And so I would ask you if, moving forward, if, one of the next meetings that we have, that you could bring that back so that we could review that again.
That would have to be a decision by the board.
So, if it is the will of the board, I would ask that we review the ordinance that we passed on December 16th, in which Attorney Paul made revisions that we essentially voted on. It is, in my opinion, that it was done in a rushed manner, and I think just another pair of eyes on that ordinance would be beneficial.
I would agree.
Can I make a possible suggestion?
Yes, please.
There is the ordinance. They do have it with the changes in it. Maybe it would be advisable for the village to send to every trustee a copy of the ordinance as it appears amended, so that you can actually sit down and read it and become familiar with it, because that's something that the village could do pretty easily.
The village clerk has the revised ordinance. I don't know if it was signed or processed yet, but it is.
So maybe
Thank you.
it would be a good idea if the members of the board who at least want it, receive it, so that they can actually sit
Digest
down
it.
and read it and see what's there, what you might think is missing, if there is something missing.
Well, and just to clarify, and thank you, Attorney Paul, just to clarify, when I say it was a rushed manner, it has nothing to do with the amendments or the adjustments that you made. I thought that was great, but I'm just trying to say that I don't like the possibility that there are going to be special groups left out just because of an ordinance that we pass in a rushed manner, if that makes sense. I just want to clarify my comments.
Well, first of all, there was the ordinances as they existed before there was any amendment. And that's actually in the code book, however they were beforehand. And so in the code book itself, I would imagine there are whatever exemptions or benefits might be available. And then, of course, there's this ordinance that added this benefit. All I'm saying is that, the board certainly can do what they want, but it might be helpful for the board members to actually have in their possession the actual final draft of what was amended at the December 16th meeting. I don't know if you have it or not, I don't know.
Bernie, we could send it to them, but I don't know I think the board needs to decide.
I think if you send it to us and then put it down so that we can bring it back to the board.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure what the board wants returned on a future board agenda.
I think right now what we want to do is to clarify the amendment. And then once we have it in our possession and we study it and come to the board together, to look at it and see if there are still any concerns, et cetera. As I see it, well, it says it's certified for the rate to be decreased for anybody that's low income, period. I thought everybody was getting covered, but if we can bring it back, so I would say just bring it back to the board, if we can move to bring the amendment back to the board, so that the board can have clarification on who it covers.
I like that.
So, when you say that, though, so the ordinance has already been approved and it's already been sent for codification. So any action going forward would be to make a further amendment to the code, not to this ordinance, but to the code. And so I would need to know what that amendment is to put on the agenda for approval. We could have a workshop, but as we all found, it was very difficult at a regular board meeting to try to have a language change and know what that meant and know what it applied to and how we were gonna advertise it and how we were, it was a lot. I've not ever experienced that at a board meeting. So it's better to do it at a workshop
I agree.
or some other venue than this.
I agree with, let's have a workshop. I agree with the suggestions of my colleagues that that amendment that we put forth on the December 16th meeting be transmitted to all of us to review in its final form. And then once we have that, let's come together and set a date for a workshop. And then we can have this discussion as to whether the code needs to be amended any further or whether we're okay with accepting it as it stands.
I agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we have some direction.
Can it be on a Thursday?
I'm not accustomed to trying to write an ordinance at the board. It becomes difficult and it becomes troubling. So we need to move forward. I'm an advocate that our enterprise fund stays whole. I don't want to have a whole number of things that are going to decrement our enterprise fund because that is a key component for our water's system. So we have to find ways that if people need the support in other ways, let's look outside of the enterprise fund, because the minute we start taking money away from the enterprise fund, we're talking about when our sewers blow up and not our sewers, our water mains and those kind of things. So I'm really sensitive
Or it
to that.
results in a water rate increase. That's.
Yeah, well, you see what the impact is on raising six and a quarter on just the infrastructure component, which is not gonna go far enough to cover what our future needs are in this community. That's why we're working at every level to try to see where we can get some additional dollars, either from the state or the feds, whatever's coming down. We have to watch that.
I agree with that, Mayor, and I think that certainly protecting the enterprise fund is a priority for us as a village. But we also have a responsibility to let the people of Hanover Park, our residents, know that we as a board are doing everything in our possible, everything within our power, everything possible within our power to hold the line on fees, rates, and increases, because these are trying times for a lot of families. And so I think that if we have to go the extra mile and look at some out-of-the-box thinking in order to figure out ways to reduce some of the financial responsibilities that our residents are paying to the village for needed services, then I think it's incumbent upon us that we take every step and every measure to explore all of those possibilities, because that's why we're here. If we're not doing that for our residents, then, you know, what's the point? So I agree, let's have the workshop. Let's look at all of the intangibles and all of the things that contribute to this and see what can we do to make sure that we are doing the best job to provide necessary services, quality services for our residents, but also holding the line on fees and rates.
And then we have a pathway where they can receive the support they need. Without objection, I believe, Juliana, you have direction.
Sorry, one more, thank you. One more question.
Oh,
So if you are a senior, it raised from 0 to 625, but everyone else, it raised from 1250 to 1850? Is that correct?
Yes.
So if it's so if you're a senior, it's 625, but if everyone else, it's 650?
18.
Right, but the increase was 650.
6.25.
Yep, 6.25.
6.25 for everybody.
Yeah,
We-
but that's,
No.
The ordinance was
The or-
typed in wrong, it says 1850, and that was the one that's
Yeah.
approved by the board.
The
So we
board
have to
approved
follow that,
1850.
1850 instead of 1875. That's one reason to amend it. If you guys amended it, I can amend that back to 1875.
wait, what? They mistyped it.
Goes the other way, though, from what the board is talking about.
Okay, we need to move on. I think we've beaten this to death.
Okay, so,
I'll send you the board
Okay,
meeting
okay.
all today.
okay, thank you.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Juliana, your next item?
So the mayor mentioned earlier, the village, are working with other municipalities along the line for the railroad. CP is proposing a merger with Kansas City line to merge the two rail lines. We have so on the next village board meeting agenda will be a memorandum of understanding between all of the different communities to work together as a coalition, as well as a request for spending authority to assist us in this effort. Two efforts: one, evaluating whether we want to oppose the merger altogether, and then two, if there are mitigation efforts that can be taken on behalf of the railroad to help mitigate any negative impacts to us. I spoke to this issue at the last meeting. We can have further discussion at the next meeting, but this is a significant impact to our residents. It will be a lot more train traffic. It will be a lot more noise, vibration, et cetera. And so we will have to bring on board experts, engineers, and public relations and marketing and attorneys, and all of that's going to cost money, so that we had not anticipated in our budget. So
So
I
we're
will
sharing
bring-
that with the other communities.
It's a shared cost, yes.
So what leverage do we have to have any impact on the private enterprise like the railroads and a merger of this type and their increased usage of our tracks? What legal authority or leverage do we have to even?
The railroad has to go through a process before the Surface Transportation Board, and we have filings that we as a community have made and will continue to make through the process, either to object or to highlight where we have concerns. So the Surface Transportation Board oversees all of the concerns of everyone and takes all of that into consideration, makes a decision on whether the merger can go forward or not.
And you said,
Um,
and then you said next meeting is when we will be voting?
I will be asking you to approve a memorandum of understanding with the other communities. We will all have it on our agendas roughly the same week, as well as spending authority, which again would be the same for all communities, split costs for that effort.
Do we anticipate what that cost will be, our portion?
It will be expensive. The estimate I received at our last meeting, which the mayor attended, was $100,000 a community.
So,
8, plus DuPage County.
and why is it that we can't go back to, is it CN? Or is-
No,
what
it's
is
CP.
CP, and essentially communicate to them that these are unforeseen costs that each village is now going to have to bear the burden of, and
That's what we're doing, yes.
that is what we're doing.
Yes, but in
Oh.
the process, we will have expenses that we will need attorneys, et cetera, to take us through that process. we have a meeting scheduled as the Village of Hanover Park individually with the railroad to outline all of our concerns and needs, and they have engineers that will be working with us. And then as a coalition, we will be doing the filings as a coalition together with all of those needs wrapped up into one.
We just spent 15 minutes quibbling over a $4,000 reimbursement to a community that did a vaccination event. Where are we going to get $100,000 to participate in this event?
We will bring a budget, a budget amendment to you next week. We will have to find where that money comes from.
Is there a limitation?
Well, the attorneys are writing up the memorandum of
No, I'm just
understanding.
saying, you're talking about $100,000. Is there a limitation in these agreements as to, or is this an ongoing expense?
I will bring you the agreements
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
It's kind of dropped in our lap, so we have to fight the fight, and the fact that we're working collaboratively with a number of other communities helps alleviate those costs. And the path that we're on, and given the leadership of the STB board, I know they're going to be, they do want to hear from the municipalities. And how do I know that? I served with the chairman on the Metro board, and Marty Oberman is there. And so there is going to be a hearing process before STB. So,
And this might not be a fair question, Juliana, and I apologize in advance, but are there any instances in the past where communities have objected to the same type of measure or activity and have been successful in their objections and somehow have thwarted a merger of two conglomerates like this?
So there was a effort amongst the communities for CN when they
Correct.
had a change or merger. They were successful in receiving, if they had at-grade crossings, bridges, those are significant dollars to put those mitigating efforts into place. So that is an example of that. But I mean, this community on a much smaller scale fought the high transmission electric lines with Commonwealth Edison, same group of communities along this corridor. We were successful in that regard, as well as communities, not so much ours, although we're a member, the Suburban O'Hare Commission for O'Hare Noise. And so they were successful to some degree in mitigating airport noise. And so I think that there are successes at different levels when communities come together, and this could have a significant impact on our community.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we are talking about millions of dollars we've already put into our downtown development. We have an RFP that's ready to be put out on the street for redevelopment right along the tracks on the south commuter lot. Our economic development, all of our efforts over the years could be significantly impacted negatively. We've got residents who live along the tracks. We've got low-income apartments along the tracks. We have all of our water and sewer infrastructure under the ground. I mean, TJ and I were talking about how he sat and watched a freight train go by for how long? And
minutes.
the vibration that he felt just standing there. And then you're gonna add 8 more freight trains per day, minimum, over the next 3 years. They haven't even given us projections after the next 3 years about what it could do to our community. And these are significantly negative impacts if this goes forward and we do not get the mitigations that we need. This is not good for our community at all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Barrington got.
Well, it's really, that's,
Barrington didn't stop the merger.
I'm sure there's other coalitions. We're along the Metro
That's
line
gonna be next summer.
that are come together for this, yes. Yeah.
It's the mitigation component we've got.
So, I mean, we'll have to decide whether we're gonna fight and oppose completely and fight that fight, or whether CP comes to the table and is agreeable to the mitigation and spending the money to help our residents.
Not of their free will. We know that. That's why her question was. Anything else, Juliana, moving on?
The fourth item I have is our village zoning. We've completed the process of drafting our new village zoning ordinance that will cover the village center, basically TIF 3 and some adjacent properties. That has gone through the Development Commission. They have completed their process. They met several times to talk through that. Prior to the next village board meeting, we will be holding an open house. All of you are requested and invited to be there as part of that process, but we will be inviting all of the property owners that are in the village. They will get an individual invite. We will have the consultant do a presentations at 3 different times, start a presentation, and then there will be boards and the ability for individuals to walk around, look at those boards, and ask one-on-one questions with representatives that are here. It will not be the public hearing. That will come after this. So this is an open house on the 17th. Then after that process is over, then we will have the formal public hearing before the Development Commission. Their recommendations will come to you, and then you will be asked to approve that new zoning ordinance. So we need to get through this process before we can put that RFP out for the South Commuter Lot. So this is a chance in an informal setting for those property owners to come and see and ask questions before they're in a very formal public hearing setting.
Very good.
So,
anything else?
you'll receive that draft ordinance will be available to the residents on our website, and they'll be able to read it ahead of time. But those invitations should go out tomorrow for a meeting on the 17th, prior to this board meeting.
On the issue of zoning, and it's not directly related to the issue that you're discussing now, and I don't know, would I be in order to bring up a zoning issue now, or should I save it during my trustee report? Attorney Paul, what?
Well, if you want to ask him, and maybe I won't be able to have an answer for you.
Well, I've had discussions with Trustee Kemper, and we are under the opinion that it may be warranted to revisit our zoning requirements for our cannabis industry based on what's been happening in some of our neighboring communities. We basically have hidden the available areas for the cannabis and industrial areas, but we're looking at what other communities, surrounding communities are doing by putting the cannabis dispensaries right in the middle of very busy strip malls and on very busy shopping thoroughfares. And we are of the opinion that maybe we want to revisit our zoning requirements that will allow us to offer more favorable locations to those wishing to open a cannabis dispensary in Hanover Park, and maybe attract more applicants for that, because we're thinking that the undesirable locations that we have approved may be hindering us receiving applications for dispensaries, and that's tax revenue that we could be acquiring, were we to have operational dispensaries. Schaumburg has them all over and everything. And so.
Yeah, that is separate from, this is a village center zoning.
That's what I'm saying. So I wanted to know
downtown.
where would be the appropriate point in time to bring that up, and I didn't know if this was it, so I was asking.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think they're two different,
Absolutely.
how you move that one forward is separate from this
Absolutely,
track.
that's why I wanted to.
So you could talk about it in your trustees report.
Okay, I'll save it for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But where do we go from there? Is that something you want to put to the Development Commission to review, or what would be the first step? I think that's what you're asking, correct?
Exactly, yeah. Do we send it back to the Development Commission to get some, and I'll do that during the
So
trustee report.
there's two ways of doing that. One way is the village board itself could draft an ordinance and tell the development commission to hold a public hearing on it. And send it back to you. Or the village board could say, gee, we kind of like this ordinance, or this type of an ordinance. What do you think, development commission? It's up to you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Juliana?
No, no further report, Mayor.
That was 5 items?
4.
4.
I hijacked it at the end.
You did, yes.
Plus
You did.
1.
So at least you have some thought for your trustee report on what to provide direction or something. Christie,
Excellent. So I just wanted to share that February 16th, in 2 Wednesdays, we'll be having our 3rd STARS program here at Village Hall, right outside the boardroom doors from 6 to 7. If anybody would like to attend, Springwood Middle School will be displaying their artwork, and I just wanted to have a shout out to Greenbrook Elementary School and Mrs. White, the art teacher, for bringing 6 to 7 p.m. And Mrs. White for bringing her students' artwork from Greenbrook is currently displayed outside for your viewing. That is all.
the 16th?
The 16th, it's a Wednesday.
Make sure it's on my calendar.
It's on-
Very good. Corporation Council report?
I have no report.
Thank you. Trustee Bancole?
Yes. So earlier this week, I was able to meet with one of the program directors for the up-and-coming Alive Center that will be housed in the Greenbrook Tanglewood Clubhouse. I'm really looking forward to this, to the arrival of this center. It seems like they have a lot of great different programs and workshops and different after-school initiatives set up for the residents within the surrounding area. And so their, I guess, ribbon cutting is going to be on March 15th, and so really, really looking forward to that, that additional resource that will, I guess, provide our residents with just something else, or I guess our youth, something else to do after school.
Especially in the Tanglewood area.
Pardon?
Especially in the Tanglewood area.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I wanted to thank TJ and the entire Public Works department for all that they've probably done. I don't even know everything that you've done this week. It's probably a lot. I was, like we all were snowed in, and I can't even imagine all the work that you put in this past week. So truly, thank you so much. And then I also wanted to, I guess, just proclaim that we are in February. It's the most magical time of the year. It's Black History Month. And so I would just challenge my fellow board members and really everyone to just dive a little bit deeper and learn a little bit more about the achievements of African Americans throughout our history. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Prigge?
No report.
Thank you. Trustee Husani?
January 26th, Indian Republic Day. Indian Republic Day, so happy Republic Day to all my Indian family, friends, everybody. Also, I was going to talk about Development Commission, how hard they're working on the zoning for Village Center. Great job done there. But Juliana stole my thunder. So but I encourage everybody. You did a great job, Juliana. I couldn't have done that. So you did a great job explaining what we're doing. But February 17th, we're doing the open house. So I highly encourage everybody to participate and come. I asked a question about the baseball field and how the money is being spent and everything else, so thank you, TJ, for taking the time out, and Juliana for explaining it. We're doing a great effort on that to make sure the minorities get their fair share as well. In general, my phone is ringing, not for right purposes, village phone. And last year it was ringing a lot, saying congratulations and everything else. I guess the honeymoon period is over. And now I'm getting a lot more calls saying this is not working, that's not working. But I'm working with a team here, starting from Juliana to Chief Farrar to everybody else. Shubra, I know it kind of keep it, and just a bit of explanation helps making them understand, being that person to kind of explain a little bit in a simpler language than the village. I think that's helping. There was something that came along today, but I will discuss that later on with the village team. I'm not going to bring that up here, but it's just the phone is ringing a little bit more about complaints, about development in general, zoning in general. Businesses are saying it's tough to be in Hanover Park. So all of that is kind of coming all at once, seems like, in the last 2 weeks. So hopefully these complaints go down, but we're trying to work diligently, with Mayor, with Juliana, with everybody else. There's always two sides of the coin, so we got to make sure we all work together and understand the other side of it as well. So I'm trying to be that mediator as well. But as we go, it will be more detailed and specific to things, and then I'll bring it to their attention as it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee. I can hand on my calls, and then you can get some more.
No, you can keep that.
It comes,
You can keep
we can bold your phone number.
I think that's what you're doing now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Trustee Gutierrez?
Just first, thank you, staff. I think that this board is a tough board. We don't make it easy for you, but thank you for understanding that we do it because we have heart for our residents. I've been very busy and very tired, but POC has been tackling the affordable transportation battle that I feel like I'm losing, and so thank you, Mayor, for being on calls with me and the Mayor of Hoffman Estates and looking at what PACE can do for our residents. We hosted a day of warmth where we provided coats and clothes, et cetera, for residents in Hoffman Estates, Schaumburg, Hanover Park, and we hit a lot of Ontariovill families there too. We're having a second one, and this one is right next to the fire station. February 19th, it's a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Folks that need a coat, a sweater, gloves, hats, we give these out a lot. We collect them for children, but not for adults. And boy, have I hit the jackpot on men's coats. We received so much that my cup runneth over, so we shared some with DuPage pads that let us know that they were in need, so we were able to give them wonderfully new coats to share with folks over there. But this is February 19th from 9 to 12. If you have questions, the number to call is 847-847-4475. That's 847-847-4475.
And where is this at?
This is going to be at the Christ Presbyterian Church.
Church next to the fire station?
In Hanover Park.
Okay.
Yeah, right down the road. So come on by and say hello to some folks. And this is for anybody from Schaumburg, Hoffman, Hanover Park, who need the coats, et cetera, especially for adults as well. And there's a lot of baby clothes too. The Historic Committee has been busy. We're looking at plaques to really point out the buildings in our Ontariovill downtown / area, to recognize some of the older buildings that we've had. And so we're looking at the history a little bit more in depth, that we can honor with a plaque while those buildings are still here and hopefully here for a very long time. We're looking at interviews that were made previously that we've got recording, and we are digitalizing those. thanks to the Lisa over at Poplar Creek Library, who's been amazing. And if you haven't checked out the Poplar Creek Library Historic Archives for Hanover Park, you should, because they have tons of really cool pictures. Schaumburg's Township DEI Committee is looking at recognizing our land in that area as a land of Potawatomi tribe, and so we're looking at how we can honor that as well.
Say that again?
Schaumburg Township DEI is looking at recognizing the land where Schaumburg Township sits as that of originally being Potawatomi tribe, and so looking at a land recognition and honoring that as well through DEI. Been busy with evictions, lots of fun there, and with housing rights. The Economic Development Committee, if you have not heard and if you haven't followed on Facebook, they have an amazing Facebook page, and I know Melissa's doing an amazing job with it. It's really easy to find if you just do @HPIL Business, that's our handle, or hashtag HPIL Business as well. And then just one concern. Trustee Porter, you talked about, or I'm not sure who it was who talked about, the special events permits. We brought this up in the summer of 2021 as I literally walked with our business owners and residents on getting special use permits and how lost we all were. And so it really does make us look horrible when a client, a resident has to go here, there, and then does it belong to them? No, I don't know who it belongs to. I put it in so-and-so's desk. So we really need to work on tightening that up so that it's really streamlined and easy, because a resident has to come to a clerk and then go over to inspectional services, but then you pay it, but not with the clerk, you pay it over here. And so there, and some people are saying, no, it belongs to this person, and people really couldn't answer my question. So, and this is something we talked about, Mayor. I know we discussed it back in the summer. And so talking about what the event at Al Huda, I can see why maybe there was an issue there with that. So we really need to work on those special permits, because I love it when our residents do things like that. So that is all. Thank you.
I think the clerk would appreciate that too.
That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and you're doing a great job over there. And we have more of those boxes available, you know, the comment box, whatever that is. I'll bring them. I'll throw them in my truck. We got a number of things that Public Works is looking to get us moved out. How many boxes you storing for us over there? A lot. Where am I? Oh, Trustee Porter.
Trustee Gutierrez, I'm really pleased to hear about your clothing drive on February 19th. My wife and I, prior to COVID, were involved in an operation that we funded and financed called Blessing Bags. And we would put together items that we would take down to the homeless that would include hats, scarves, gloves, toiletries, and all of those. And we have, because of COVID, we had to stop distributing. So my basement is full of these items. So we will be there making a pretty sizable donation.
Oh, that'd be awesome if you do.
Effort.
Anything that's left over is going to go to the Cook County pads in Palatine and to the DuPage pads as well, around this side, equally divided.
So we were both thrilled because we'd be doing something good, and we'd also be clearing out what used to be my man cave, but now has become storage area for all of this stuff. So we can.
And we're also Amita is giving us space for a clothing closet as well. So some of that stuff might go in there too. So
Is it only new stuff here?
we like new or like new.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't like doing laundry, so I have to take it home and wash it if it's not new. So it has to be clean, like new, et cetera, which I'm sure is not a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Also, this is Black History Month, and traditionally Sister Cities has always held a Black History Month event. Unfortunately, because of COVID, this will be the second year that we have had to postpone or not put on this event. Very sad that we can't do it, but in the interest of safety, we just didn't feel it would be prudent to have a community event in a room like this and be able to experience the fullness of what we have traditionally done with food and everything. So we will not be having a Black History Month event, but we do encourage everyone to do a little research on your own. There'll be a lot of information on Facebook and a lot of social media sites that will highlight the contributions of the community. And one of the things that that I would like to encourage everyone to do is to spend as much time looking forward as we do looking backwards, because even though it's Black history, but it's laid the groundwork for future events. And we have a lot of people who are making differences that will one day be part of our history, and they're current movers and shakers in the community, and kind of do some research on those, look that up, and familiarize yourself with what's going on in the community. Earlier, I brought up the cannabis zoning reconsideration. Trustee Kemper, you may want to touch on this when it's your turn next, but we certainly want to look at and revisit some of the zoning requirements and restrictions that we approved at an earlier board meeting. As I've been driving around and looking and seeing what other communities are doing, Schaumburg has 3 or 4 of these operations, one right down Barrington Road next to the Home Depot, another one on Gulf Road, and you know, they're situated in very high populated, high trafficked areas, and there seem to be cooperating, very mutually agreeable with their surrounding neighbors and their other businesses. And I think maybe if we revisit some of our zoning requirements and restrictions, it would aid us in our attempt to, since we have already authorized that there will be 2 of these operations in town, this may help speed up that process as we get applicants and get approval and get that going, because the revenue would certainly be welcome in view of some of the discussions that we've had this evening. That type of revenue would be very helpful to us. So I'd like to maybe have the Development Commission to go back and to look at some other possibilities. I think it would be better to start there, because you've got all of the data and all the logistics that can come back and report to the board and say, here's some possibilities, here's some alternatives, here's some options, and then the board can consider those and come to some agreements or whatever we may choose to do, whether we decide to do it or not. But I think the starting place, I don't want to jump the gun or overstep from what our Development Commission is charged with doing.
Do you need like the approval, like do
From
we
the
have to
board?
have 3 members of the board to bring that up back to committee?
Well, I think that the Development Commission went through various options and had a lot of discussions, with all those minutes and stuff are out there about and the recommendation they came. So I think, though, some level of direction on what you would be looking for the change to be would be helpful for them to review, rather than just saying re-review what you've already reviewed. So maybe if you're having a workshop regarding water, we put this on there as well, and you all talk through what you might want to see as a modification or a change to those guidelines to send back to the Development
I would be
Commission.
okay with that.
And
Trustee
because-
Kemper, while you're on the line, would you be okay with something along those lines?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
So because we have the open house on the 17th, this would be prior to the March 3rd Village Board meeting.
That's fine.
It's a workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
What I heard you say for the cannabis is one thing that really stood out in the workshops when we went through that is standalone buildings. And you're saying you have noticed that it's also in strip malls?
Yeah.
So that's something that you want to see, there's opportunities within Hanover Park that could be in strip malls.
Exactly.
And major concern was the smell of it itself and then kids, I think,
Yeah.
exposure to kids.
Yeah, and obviously the
View.
technology that's available mitigates the smell, because again, the neighboring businesses aren't complaining, and they are there. I think that all of these businesses still abide by some type of restriction in terms of proximity to schools and churches and that kind of thing. You know, that would have to be upheld, I would think, but of course, that's all up for discussion. But
They're not smoking on site. They're not smoking
No,
on
no,
site.
that's prohibited by Illinois law. You can't do that. You can't consume, can't even open or do anything on site, so.
I
there's
try to
nothing-
stay away, but I will try to pay a visit just to get the smell of it itself, because that was a huge discussion at that time when
Yeah,
we did it.
and.
Neighboring business might be frustrated with that, that's what the
Yeah,
concern
it
was.
doesn't seem to be a problem.
Okay.
And I've talked with some people in Schaumburg, and they tend to be very good neighbors, good business neighbors. So when we first came up with the ordinance, everything was really new.
It was.
And we were going on information. Things have developed, things have evolved since then. There's new information that's available, and I think based on the new information and the new reality, that we probably should look at it and see if maybe our codes were a little too stringent. But we were going up based on what was available. So let's revisit that and see if we can come up with something that's more favorable
So
to.
you're saying our perception is changing?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
We got 2 items for a
Yeah,
workshop.
and
Except for I
that
will
would.
not be there on March 3rd, so.
Who won't?
I will not be here.
No, we want you there. When will you be available?
At the following, the second meeting in March, it would have to be, I'm not here for the first meeting. Dave would be happy to run the meeting in my absence.
That's all I have. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so it'll be the
I
second
just
meeting in
realized
March.
that.
Because I agree with you. I don't want to move ahead on these items without Juliana being there. Is there anybody else? Oh, Trustee Kemper. You're like a ghost. You're like a ghost there.
A little bit, right? So, Trustee Porter, thank you for bringing that up. I've been approached by several people over the last, I want to say 6 months. Herb and I have actually been talking about this, I think, almost for a year now. And it's time to take a good hard look at rezoning the cannabis and bringing another form of revenue into the Village of Hanover Park. Moving on out of that, TJ, I want to commend you guys, Public Works, for their snow removal. And quick question, are the contractors that we have clearing the course, are they the same ones that we've had the last few years?
Yes, sir. I believe that it is the same contractor that we had last year.
Well, I can't complain this year. They're doing a good job.
Give us time.
So, other than that, Valentine's Day is coming up as well. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there, and also welcoming Black History Month. Again, it's a shame that sister cities cannot have their event that we do. I'm looking forward to doing it next year. It's always been a great event. So with that, y'all have a good evening.
With that, we have no executive session, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, if you would, call the roll.
Yes. Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Frigie?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Trustee Porter?
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned at 9 p.m.
Thank you. Not with the speed of the